Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to today's episode of the Daily Packers Post, where we bring you in-depth coverage of your Green Bay Packers. We have new videos dropping every day, Monday through Friday, so make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Today on the show, we are going to discuss Lukas Van Ness, the Packers' former first-round pick out of Iowa, now entering his third season, and it looks like Van Ness is on the verge of taking that proverbial step forward and really taking his game to another level. And look, when the Packers made Van Ness the 13th overall pick back in 2023, they knew he was a bit of a project. That, yes, he had the nickname Hercules because of his body shape and athleticism and size. But at the same time, while he had all the tools to become an elite NFL defensive end or edge rusher, he needed a lot of refinement. He was a raw talent, and he was going to need time. In his entire career at Iowa, he never started a single game. Now, part of that was that at the University of Iowa, they always favored seniors when it came to starting assignments. Van Ness did play more snaps than many of the players ahead of him on the depth chart, but at the same time, he was never officially a starter in Iowa. Now, his first two seasons in the NFL, he started off in Joe Barry's defense playing outside linebacker, had 4 sacks playing all 17 games in his rookie year, and was on the field for 33% of the team's defensive snaps. Last year, 2024, the Packers hired Jeff Hafley to be the new defensive coordinator. They switched to the 4-3 defense, so Van Ness and all the other edge rushers moved from outside linebacker to defensive end. Van Ness played 39% of the defensive snaps, but recorded only 3 sacks. He did play better against the run. We didn't find out until OTAs this spring that Van Ness had played the first 11 games out of 17 last year with a broken thumb that hampered his ability to use one of his hands when rushing the passer, and that certainly makes that job that much more difficult because you can't use your hand to grab a hold of a player and gain leverage and positioning. So overall, no doubt that hampered Van Ness's ability to, get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. In training camp this year, though, it looks like Van Ness is taking that step forward. He's been lining up with the first-string defense, which is something we were hoping to see last year. At the trade deadline, the Packers traded Preston Smith to the Steelers, and a lot of people thought, hey, Van Ness's big chance, he'll take over as the starter opposite Rashawn Gary. Nope, didn't happen. Kingsley Enagbare stepped in and ended up starting. Now, he's made a good impression on the training camp, on the coaching staff. Jeff Hafley basically said earlier this week, he's a year older. He's got another year in the scheme. I think he's starting to understand the position, how to use his hands, how to set edges, some pass rush tools, and some counter moves. It was a good offseason for him. Truthfully, he did a good job at OTAs, and then I think he left here and he put in a lot of work. He came back in really good shape. He's healthy. I just think he's a year older and another year in the scheme for him, where he's starting to feel comfortable. I think defensive line coach DeMarcus Covington has done a really good job with him and that entire group. And yeah, we're only a little more than a week into training camp, but we've seen Van Ness as a regular visitor into opposing backfields during that first week. One play that stood out, he penetrated the line and managed to tackle Romeo Doubs in the backfield on a reverse for a tackle for loss. Now, one wrinkle that head coach Matt LaFleur had mentioned at OTAs, and we're still waiting to see if we see it more in practice, more in the preseason, and even maybe in a regular season game, possibility that in some obvious passing situations, Van Ness could line up inside at defensive tackle. LaFleur at OTA said, I think situationally you can do that. In known passing situations, then there's some thought around that. A lot of it is going to be dependent on everyone else as well. Lukas has shown a lot of growth. Van Ness did take a lot of snaps at defensive tackle during his college career, so it's not unfamiliar territory to him. You do, though, already have Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt at defensive tackle, two players who, when healthy, do know how to get pressure on the quarterback. But if you move Lukas Van Ness inside in some passing situations, A, you could spell Clark and or Wyatt, and B, you can get either Brenton Cox or Kingsley Enagbare on the field in addition to Rashawn Gary, in addition to Lukas Van Ness, in addition to one of those two defensive tackles that we talked about, Clark and Wyatt. You're giving the defense more tools and more ways to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and that's always a positive. So this is going to be 2025, a very important season for Van Ness. It's time for him to take a third-year jump and show that the Packers were right to draft him in the first round. His career is at a crossroads, and he could either develop into a quality starter or even a quality contributor, or be considered a bit of a first-round bust. Time will tell. This season will be critical for Lukas Van Ness and the Green Bay Packers. Check out our website at thepackerspost.com. We have articles dropping Monday through Saturday going in depth on the Green Bay Packers. Again, that's thepackerspost.com. Here on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Daily Packers Post. I'm Gil Martin. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. And of course, go Pack Go.